He literally says he hates ICT basically.
I need to figure this out or I'm gonna die. Like, and I have that same like kind of like mentality where it's like I can't quit because
I didn't know that. So you need $7,000 for 5 micros?
I think most people care too much about perfectionism. I think it's a scam. I think you need to be okay with imperfect action.
When you think back to when you first started, and I know you said at the beginning the trading has changed a lot, like the way what would you say to 2020 Christian now? What's up, traders? Welcome back to the Day Trading Show. Today, I've got Christian Williams in the house. Christian's in California. He's an ICT trader, so this is a really good episode. We talk a lot about ICT stuff, actually. We talk about market structure, how Christian likes to trade, order blocks, fair value gaps, a lot of that. We also talk about prop firms and his take on instant fundings and combines and all that stuff. But I think the big stuff from Christian is just like the middle to back half of this episode where we, I think, kind of go high level and we learn a little bit about his background, kind of then makes everything make sense. So stay through till the end of this episode. You guys are going to love it. Make sure you're subscribed. Links for Christian are in the description. Links for our sponsors are in the description. And now enjoy today's podcast. Traders, we've got Christian Williams in the house. So Christian and I are connected through Tanner Owings. Tanner's in California. Christian, are you in California too?
Yeah, I've known Tanner for like 6 years just through powerlifting. So before I was getting into trading, I powerlifted for 6-7 years competitively, opened a gym, started coaching people. And during that process, that's kind of when I crossed paths with Tanner, mostly through Instagram at first.
Love it. He is the Instagram king. So are you competing still like he is in powerlifting?
No, I mean, I'm kind of out of it, honestly. So I at my best, I squatted 630 in competition. I lifted about 740.
Flex.
Bench like 370, but that was like 2020 or something, 2019.
How
Last
tall are
thing
you?
I did was maybe 7 months ago, and I'm kind of over it. I'm at that age where I'm like, I don't want to get hurt.
I feel you.
Like I get under the bar, load up 600, and I'm like, I'm worried about my knees. And for me, like
sure,
that mindset's gone. Yeah. So
how
I
tall
just
are you?
don't have it.
Are
5'8".
you
Like
okay?
5'8".
So you're
I was 5'9", then I started powerlifting, so about 5'8" now.
He's huge, right? Tanner's tall. He's over 6 foot, right?
He's like I don't know, 6'7" inches taller than me or something like that.
Right. See, that's not fair. I mean, what do you think? Do short guys like you and me, because I'm 2 inches shorter than you.
Gotcha.
So do we have the advantage, do you think, in the powerlifting, or do you think the tall guys have the advantage?
No, absolutely. Shorter people, all of us, we got the advantage. So deadlifting is the only thing that taller people can do well with if their arms are also long. But it's all measured. It comes down to bone lengths. So if you have long 100%. Femurs, you might struggle with the squat. If you have long arms, you'll struggle with the bench.
The math has to math. The geometry of the body's got to be built.
100%.
But he gets after it, bro. I think that's like why people love seeing his shit. He does so well on Instagram because he's authentic. Same thing for you. Like when I've seen you doing your short form in the short time that we've known each other, super authentic. And I think that's why people come to me too, because they get that vibe from a lot of my guests. So I'm excited to jump into this. Let's go back, bro. Where'd you get into trading? You said you met Tanner years ago. You guys met through powerlifting. Did he show you trading?
Partially, yeah. So I had mainly 2 people that showed me how to trade, pretty much. So Tanner got me into a group, Opinicus. I learned there for a couple of years. Good guys over there, Kyle, and one of the other mentors they had, Mo. But other than that, I actually found trading through a very strange path, right? So I had a mutual friend, and he posted this guy, and he was just like hanging out with just these big celebrities, and I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I go to his page, like 4,000 followers, like nothing crazy. So I was like, I don't know, 19, 20 at the time. I'm like, I DM the guy. I don't know him. I'm like, what do you do? And he told me, he's like, I trade and did all this. And he was not an influencer, like not at all. And he gave me like a PowerPoint that he made in high school. And it was just like how to trade and candlestick patterns and all this stuff. And it was the craziest thing because years later, it's like, he's like, damn, you actually stuck with it. And like, yeah, this is like a pretty high net worth person. And you just meet people by just taking opportunities like that. You just say, fuck it, shoot your shot, ask someone a question. What's the worst they can say? Nothing?
No. Right. Exactly. It's true. That's awesome. Now, how has the trading changed since then for you? Because I know you have your own brand now, basically, that you're pushing content through. We'll make sure we link to that down below so everybody can go follow you. What has changed over the last couple of years in your trading to get you to this point?
A lot, honestly. So when I first started, I was very much into, I traded options when I first started. So it was a lot of momentum plays. We focused on volume, obviously moving averages, all that good stuff, volume profile. So I've studied pretty much anything under the sun outside of like, you know, harmonic, like horseshit type of stuff. I've always had some sort of basis in either volume or price. And over the last I'd say last like year and a half, 2 years, I've mainly focused on price. And the reason is when I switched over to futures, I noticed that there was less of a correlation between volume and price moving, unlike stocks, where stocks genuinely need some sort of volume to move. Otherwise, go look at some like, I don't know, restoration hardware stock. It just kind of chops around unless something in the news hits, and then you start to see some like blood pushed into the stock, some actual life. Futures, they move. It doesn't matter high volume, low volume, they move on news, they move random headlines. It's very robotic. So in that sense, I really focus on measuring stuff. And that's kind of what brought me into really it was through like my own trial and error. I started to understand what like a fair value gap was. And that's when I kind of came across ICT. Unbeknownst to me, I was like, damn, this stuff's interesting. And everyone's like, damn, that dude's like controversial. I'm like, I don't know, man, it makes sense. So I've just kind of taken my own understanding of it and just applied it. But I'm not a purist in any sense of the word. I use what works, if that makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. I think that's a good intro into the ICT part of this podcast that people are going
Gotcha.
to want to hear about. So,
Yeah.
what was your initial impression? Seems like you went into it pretty unbiased. What
Yeah,
did
I
you
had
think?
no idea. I had no idea. So I'm not like a Twitter guy. I don't really care for all that stuff.
Yeah,
I
keep talking.
try to
I'm
get
closing
more
my window.
consistent with it. But the thing is with ICT, the one thing I was coming across consistently was the way I would trail my stops in futures. I would always trail them into like a broader candle, right? I'd be trailing higher bar low. And I
Sure.
would notice time after time again, I would get stopped out by just a wick. And I'm like, why does it keep doing this? And I started to understand, wait, maybe I can structure an entry at that wick when it goes in. And I'm like, looking into it and randomly just a suggested video. It was ICT 2022 mentorship or something like that. And I'm watching, I'm like, bro's just rambling. I'm like, I don't know what happened. I was watching a video, fell asleep, woke up, fell asleep again. Like I just could not stay focused because it's just droning on. But he finally got to the fair value gap and I'm like, oh, I get it. And immediately it clicked. Immediately it clicked. I understood that there is something here that a lot of people are missing out on. And from that understanding, just from like seeing that confirmed, I was able to apply that to my own trading. And for me, the way I look at it is a great foundational way to understand market structure just through understanding price action, understanding displacement. But that doesn't necessarily mean that, whoever trades this shit is a good trader. Most of the time, it's like here's the thing. I can tell you that, hey, this is the most effective tool to get the job done. And I give you a hammer. But if you don't know how to swing a hammer, it's not going to do you any good. So that's the best metaphor I have. A lot of people, they think, oh, because it's ICT, they can trade well. When in reality, most people can't trade for shit. It doesn't matter if you give them the best system in the world. So I think my understanding of price and applying that to this system has really lended itself to me being able to make just consistent growth over the years.
If you're tired of wasting money and time on sim funding challenges, Top One Trader has an offer for you. They now have instant funding accounts, which means you can start trading towards a payout today with no challenge and no waiting. It's an incredible offer. As long as you follow the consistency rule, you can be eligible for a payout in your first week of trading, if you take advantage of some of the unique offers that Top One has, like their instant payout add-on. Now, if you go back to episode 147, I interview a guy named Derek. He made over $100,000 with Top One last year. He shares his experience with Top One as a firm in detail in that podcast episode. So definitely check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about what traders are saying having traded with Top One. Their customer support we know is top notch. We know that they are paying people out with no issues. So to me, them getting in the instant funded game was a no-brainer. So check it out. Thank you to Top One. Happy trading. If you're serious about taking your trading to the next level in 2025, you need to be tracking your trades the right way. Most traders don't struggle because of lack of skill. It's because they lack data-based insights on their own performance. And that's where TradeZella comes in. You're going to be able to see strengths and weaknesses, see what's working well for you, see what you're not doing well. And then you're going to be able to double down on what's actually working by identifying your most profitable setups. You're going to be able to review and detail each trade with precision. And that's going to help you identify new patterns and make more money. I've been using TradeZella for the last 3 years. Everybody that we send to them absolutely loves them. So use the code ASFX10 for 10% off your monthly, or the better deal, use the code ASFX20 to save 20% on your yearly membership. Good luck and happy trading. Love it. Great answer into the ICT stuff. You know all the misconceptions I'm sure that there are about
Absolutely.
his story and the stuff.
Yeah.
There's no doubt, though, that the fair value gap stuff has helped people make money,
Yeah.
that those
Yeah.
mentorship sessions that he's posted online have helped people. There's
Yeah.
no doubt. So you can talk shit about the story, I think, and that's what I've kind of
Yeah.
come to the conclusion, because I've talked to other ICT guys before,
Mm.
bro. But I think that you can't really talk shit about how it's impacted other traders. I have guys, I had this dude, listen to this. I had this dude, Sam, on the podcast. He literally says he hates ICT basically. But if he was to tell a new trader where to start, like brand
Yeah.
new person,
Yeah.
ICT is a really good place. And I
Yeah.
wonder if it's like the framework of the story and the way Michael presents it that
Yeah.
that gets people almost like bought in. Like you're falling asleep. I've never
Right.
even
Right.
listened
Right.
to it. I think that like a lot of us may tune it out, but some people may like really eat it up, bro. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I agree with you. I think there's something to be said about making something marketable.
yes.
I personally I think the dude's like harmless. I think he's probably kind of full of shit sometimes, but
But bro,
do I
everybody on the
really
internet's
care?
full of
I don't really
shit.
give a
Look at
shit.
Patrick. Look at everybody. They're all full of shit. They're all
Yeah,
talking all
in
the
their
way.
own ways, right? It's like
Right.
it just is what it is.
It is what it is.
I would
Like,
assume someone at that age doesn't really care what people think. So part of me thinks he does a lot of it just for like his own like inside joke against the world. You know, it's like
absolutely.
anyone with a basic, even just like below average IQ can understand that someone that's 60 years old did not invent the market.
Yes.
Like, especially if they discovered it when they were 20 years old. So, I
Yes.
mean, I don't know how to put two and two together for people, but they're like, he didn't invent the, I'm like, who cares?
No,
I'm
but
like,
what's
just
good is,
look at the information.
and
If
what
a
people
homeless person told me to do this, I'd be like, let me see. And if it works, it fucking works.
I hope people can pull that and separate that, you know? So
Right.
now as you've gone down the ICT rabbit hole, are you trading exactly the way that they teach it in the videos, or have you modified this in your own way?
Yeah, I've absolutely taken pieces for myself.
Okay.
There's a lot of things where people think everything has to be a certain thing. So, like, let's just say every hour interval, right? The crossover, they call it a macro. People think every macro has to apply. And I'm like, just look at 10 a.m. Just expect something at 10 a.m. to be a reversal. That's a common thing that I've learned, even in my, when I was trading options over with Opinicus and Kyle. The 10 a.m. reversal was something that was widely noted, regardless of trading style. So that is where I kind of lean into. I don't need to get super nuanced and like overly detailed on every topic. I need a very basic system that is repeatable. And I think people confuse the idea of like a picture perfect trade with a reliable, high expected value type trading system. You want something that's going to repeat and that there's not going to be a lot of like headache with it. I was talking to one of my guys and he said, I just want to catch the whole move. And I'm like, but at what cost? It's like he's talking about this entry price down to that target. And I'm like, do you know how much drawdown and sideways action occurs right there? It's like an hour of just 100-point range. I'm like, you're not catching that. It'd be better just to catch the 20 points and the 20 points and the 20 points, because then you're actually securing profit on your actual stats. Because if you're just aiming for one entry and one exit and it doesn't work, and you only have all or nothing in your strategy, you're never going to secure profit and you'll end up net negative.
Great point. What are some of the misconceptions that people have about ICT, or maybe some of the areas that people are screwing themselves up, maybe
Yeah,
overthinking it, overcomplicating it?
absolutely. There's a few main things. People think that just because a level is created like a fair value gap, that you have to enter there, when really you can develop some sort of discretion where you see how is price reacting. Because there's guys like I believe his name is Justin Werlin. I've seen
Yeah.
like one or two
I had him on
videos
the
or
show before.
something. Awesome. Yeah. He's
He'll be back too.
that's great. I think he provides a lot of good content. But one of the things I saw he would post is like he would trade against, into a fair value gap, and his stop would be based on how the smaller time frame structure developed in that fair value gap, instead of just the 40-point arbitrary range. And if you're any bit decent at trading, like that's what would make more sense, because then you could refine your risk and have a tighter stop and obviously more size as a result. Things like that give you a lot more autonomy over your trading. If you have smaller size, you can't really scale out. So your profit is pretty much dependent on a trade working perfectly, rather than you being able to pull profits consistently. So that's a big part for traders.
Well, and that'll screw up your whole plan of making this a business, right?
You need money in. It
You need
doesn't
money
matter.
in.
Yeah, you can't just be expecting to sell big ticket items if this is your business. You need those, that recurring revenue.
Yep. Okay. So what else? Any other big misconceptions about the ICT stuff that like, cause we're going to get a lot of
Yeah,
ICT guys listening to this. So like, they're probably thinking, Christian, what tips do you have for me to avoid? Cause it's
absolutely.
so easy to answer that question of like what to do, right? Just
Yeah.
inverse the turtle the soup, bro. Inverse the fair
Yep.
out. You got
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Okay. But
There's like,
what?
here's the best one
Yeah,
I can think. There's going to be
okay.
one or two main moves of the day. There's not 20 trades a day. Stop thinking that way. And you got to understand there's no magic to any of this shit. It's called certain things because they're easy to remember. Is an order block really some sort of like mechanical, like injection of liquidity from this? Bro, it's a structure and a trend that you can measure. Base your risk on it. That's it. Is there mechanical elements to the market? Is it algorithmically driven? I don't know. Ask ChatGPT. Most of the volume on market, on the CME is algorithmically driven. Does that mean that it's one algorithm? No, it just means that there's robotic elements to this. That's why you'll see a price level tapped and like to the tick, exactly like the price level that we're specifically looking at. And there's a notable reaction there. That's not random. It's because there's things being referenced, but it doesn't mean that there's like some sort of like overarching like this is one puppet master. It's just a thing that we can measure and just keep it as simple as you can, because the more you try to sound smart on Twitter, the less of an understanding you'll actually have with this stuff.
What are you doing with Twitter? It's great. Very well said. What are you doing with Twitter? Like, are you starting to get your toes in the water there?
Yeah, a
Because
little bit.
it's murky, bro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You end up more distracted sometimes posting about your trade, and you end up missing the next good trade because you're so
Right.
worried about Twitter. It is murky. So what are you doing over there?
Trying to get into a little bit, share some ideas, share some thoughts, but I do agree. I think it's pretty. I think a lot of people love hearing how they sound.
Yeah,
Like they just love standing on a, like whatever, like
of
stirring up
course.
drama, all this stuff. I think Twitter, in my mind, in a lot of senses, is just people thinking out loud, which it's cool. I mean, yeah, you can go over there and learn. I never really found value in learning from Twitter. I've always liked the YouTube, but in a general sense, I think learning through experience is better. I don't want to go on Twitter just to learn from other people. I think people go on there for entertainment, and I
Yeah.
think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think
The
people go to
entertainment
YouTube
platform.
mostly to learn is YouTube.
Yeah,
Even Instagram is
absolutely.
not like my educational content has never like blown up on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Instagram's cool for like I like posting, trade fast forwarded trade clips and just me voicing over because it's real
I didn't
easy
like that.
content for me to do. And when I first got into trading, I always wanted to see actual trades playing out. There
Of
was
course.
no one who would just post their video of a trade when I first started. I'm just like, I wish that would happen. So pretty
Yeah.
much everything that I do nowadays is geared around what would I have wanted when I first started.
Give me more on that. What does that look like?
Yeah, so like when I first got, I started helping a couple people. Right, they're like, "Hey, can you explain some of the stuff to me?" So I started doing a
Mhm,
little bit of mentorship, and they're
mhm.
like, "Can you do a group?" And I'm like, "I'll do a Telegram, I guess." But they ended up getting me to do a Discord. I'm like, "All right, cool." So I have like I don't know, 50 people in there or something. A lot of them are just like friends at this point, though. So that's ultimately I realized I'm like, damn, I got to cater to what I wanted in the beginning, and I always wanted to see people trade live, and I do a little bit of that now. I mean, this month I'm trading pretty much, yeah, every single day live. So I do that in the group, and it's just stuff that I never was able to see when I first started in this stuff. It was a lot of I had to like search out on social medias for trading. Trading didn't really find me the same way. I had to find it. Like with social media, I feel like nowadays people get ads for all this shit. I never really got that on Instagram or any of that.
It's very true. And now there's indicator companies. I do work with Luck Algo. They run crazy ads. So now people are like, oh, I can just trade with indicators. Like people that have never
Yeah.
been trading before start coming in because of ads like that. It's true. When you think back to like getting into it, I guess down that ICT rabbit hole, could we say there's anything else that people should either do or not do if that's the path that they want to learn before we leave this topic too much?
Yeah. Yeah, just really know what you're getting yourself into, because I had to go through like a slight period of unlearning some things to really be able to like fully internalize these concepts, because a lot of it will kind of butt heads, especially if you come from like a momentum background where you're looking to trade breakouts and all this stuff with stocks in play, high relative volume. If you come into futures, you're trying to do the almost the opposite. Like breakouts will fail. Most of these times it's like there's no follow through. It's a lot of range bound because the markets are very efficient. Any high level trader will tell you that futures markets are super efficient. It's just like the first 2 weeks of inefficiency we've really seen, where we've had a trending market for the first time in like feels like months. So
It's true.
that's a big one. Just know what you're signing up for, I would say.
How come you and Tanner don't trade the same way? Why is he doing VWAP and you're doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah. I personally don't know. I mean, I've shared some of the stuff, and he's like, "Dude, I actually see like how valid this can be."
Yeah.
I think it caters well to my personality because I would always do things like a little incorrect when I first started futures, where I would be buying the high because I see the momentum, and I would endure the drawdown, and I didn't necessarily know how to trail my stop. Where now, because of the idea of just using, whether it's you call it like the opposing candles in a trend, an order block, or a fair value gap, it helps me see the market a little better, as well as also know what targets to reach for specifically. I like to have exact targets, and sometimes obviously fall a little short, but knowing to target old highs, old lows, instead of it just being like arbitrary, it caters well to my personality. I tend to be a little more obsessive with that kind of stuff, but doesn't mean there's anything wrong. I was telling some of the guys recently, I'm using a lot more VWAP these days because when we're experiencing these big trend days, mean reversion is a very, very likely thing. And if there's bigger ranges, there's likely going to be bigger volume just based on the conditions we're in. So there's a greater correlation.
Well said. Again, talk to me about the targets. I want to go back to that since you brought it
Yeah.
up there. When you say you're exact with it, what like the guys listening are going to think, okay, well, what's his average risk reward? What's he looking for?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. So I would say as last year I was doing more of like the 2.5 to 3R is kind of what I was aiming for.
Okay.
My win rate was under 70. This year I've changed it just a little bit because I haven't been able to get as much follow through, especially if you traded through January, February, anything to the upside. It's been a lot of like round trips, like the roller coaster up, roller coaster down. So I've had to adjust more to like a system that I traded even years prior, where I'm trailing a lot more aggressively. And if I get trailed out and it still validates a level, I could look for reentry. So
Yeah.
I adapt with the markets. I've done this long enough to realize that like not every year, especially now, like you can definitely see the characteristic changes. Like look at some trades that you've taken in February and compare it to like I don't know, even like November, December.
Totally different, bro.
It's
Totally
insane to me.
different.
And sometimes it will catch you off guard. Where like I would say in this climate, there's a lot more utility in using moving averages and things of that nature. Whereas let's just say quarter 3, quarter 4 last year,
Mhm.
I didn't necessarily feel any validity to those concepts. Where now it's like, yeah, that will absolutely help you a ton.
Yeah. What would you say to the guys that are listening saying, Christian, that you only know that because of market experience. You have more years than me in the game. How do I develop that muscle? Okay, markets are changing. Now
Yeah,
I need to maybe pull out a different type of strategy.
yeah,
Breakouts aren't working as much. Now I need to look
yep.
for more pullbacks to VWAP or reversions or whatever it may be. What would you say is advice on how to know when to make those adjustments?
I'd say pain is a great teacher. So normally you're going to endure some, get kicked in the teeth, right? And you do it a couple times, you realize, man, I got to stop doing that. Like
Yeah.
if you traded, let's just say during the COVID mania and you're trying to short on the way up, right? During the persistent bid to the moon, right? Gone every day, just close the highs, close the highs, close the highs. You'll learn very quickly how to not short in a bullish market.
Of course.
Whereas in this market, I would say the last couple of weeks, it's like you have to be very, very, very cautious with longs. And
Yeah.
the way you can kind of understand why would a moving average work well? Well, you got to look at the structure. There's not been a lot of deep retracements. It's been very shallow retracements as it sells off. Something like that, a trend following system works really well. A moving average is simply a trend, whether it's a volume weighted moving average, a whole or whatever, you can use
Whatever.
any moving average.
Sure.
So yes, anyone who says, "Oh, it's based on experience," absolutely. I tell my guys that all the time. They're like, "How can you tell the difference?" It's experience. I'm lending
Sure.
it to you when I say that I'm able to. I'm saying, hey, like today, for instance, I was looking for a long to VWAP. There was guys trying to short to prior day low. I'm like, it's not going to go there. It's going to go to VWAP. It's been selling off all night. It's going to bounce and then maybe come down. And that's what we saw. And people are like, oh no, like they don't piece it together. I'm like, it's because
It's
I've done what
experience.
you're trying to do a million
A
times.
million
And it
times, right?
works.
And then you're like, I
Yeah.
lost that trade a million times, so I know. I
Yes,
totally,
absolutely.
totally can relate, bro. 100%. When
Yeah.
you, I want to go zoom back for a second. What's like can you give us more on your background? I know we're
Yeah.
now just veering out of trading land for a
No, you're
second.
good. Let's do
What's
it.
like family? Do they support the trading? Parents? What's your dad do? Like, I'm curious to know a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so I mostly grew up with my mom and my stepdad. Grew up with my grandparents a little bit too. They don't really know too much about trading. I mean, I live on my own with my fiance, but like I kind of got into trading just on my own. Like I really started pushing it during COVID. All the just the COVID time, right? That was like a main time I really got into the markets. I think they kind of understand it now conceptually when I'm able to be like, oh yeah, look, this is like TradeZella or whatever at like the holidays or something. They're like, oh wow, what? What is that? Obviously I'm not like, oh look, this is a 50K fund. I'm like, no, this is like P&L. This is what I
Yeah,
made. Like
right,
this is $500
right.
minus 500. You see, so like they get it in a conceptual level, but I really do wish I got into it when I was younger. I
Yeah.
used to always wonder about the markets when I was a kid. Like I joke, I kid you not, in like middle school, I used to think I'm like, there's people who make money off of charts, and I don't know how I had that thought. Like I wasn't exposed to it. It's not like my
Oh, dude, you must have been. Somebody's dad was a stockbroker. That's always the story
right.
I hear. Or somebody's dad told him to
I
buy
wish shit.
stock,
I
you know?
absolutely wish that would be
Yeah.
the coolest thing in the world.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, I've talked to some people that'll like go back and say like my story was like I bought stock when I was like 13 with my
yeah,
bar mitzvah money, and then we held
yeah,
that. Like my first big stock was Apple, and then I sold it and bought my first car. So like
that's
I've been
beautiful.
around markets for a
Yeah.
long time. So, but it is interesting. A lot of people got in the same time. Maybe I wouldn't say even like got in. A lot of people really caught the bug during
Yeah.
COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, like the 2020 was it was just a crazy time. That was the year like we launched my education company. I left the prop firm that I was working at in
Mhm.
2019. So
Okay.
2020 we boomed because everyone is now at home looking
Yep.
for online trading education, right? That really made a big difference for my trading business, I think. Now, a
Yeah.
lot I was going to say a lot of people now are not trading, the ones that were trading in 2020 or had started in 2020.
Absolutely. It's a very high attrition rate. I would say turnover in trading is insane. Like it's hard. It's
Hard.
hard. The few people that got me into it, even Tanner, like, if I knew how hard trading would be when I first started, I don't think I would have really stuck with it the way that I did. Because, like, honestly, you have to kind of change a lot about who you are as a person. And for me, when I was getting into this, I was very impulsive. I was very emotional. I mean, like, just to put in context, like, I was an early adult in powerlifting, pushing my limits to like the max, at whatever, at whatever it took, right? You can't be very stable doing that kind of thing. Loading 600 pounds on your back, you have to come up with some like pretty weird frameworks where you're like, I don't even care if I get hurt. Deadlifting 800 pounds at my best, you have to not care about the consequences. And with trading, you have to be insanely aware of the consequences of your actions because you have to live with them. And obviously, in the grander scheme, you have to live with whatever happens to you under the bar. But to perform well in that, it's like the opposite of what I have to do now.
I
Now I have
see
to
that.
be, yeah,
I see that, but I also see the other side of that a little bit where it's like your lack of care to just say like fuck it, I'm lifting that
mm,
weight is sometimes that lack of like or maybe I should say lack of overthinking in trading
yeah,
where it's like you're
absolutely.
always going to be able to talk yourself out of a trade. Shut up and get in. This is the
Yep,
pattern you're
yep,
supposed to
yep.
be involved in. Like let's go. You know what I'm saying? So there is some similarity there too.
There
Where I think
really is. Yeah,
spillover of your aggression, right?
yeah,
Controlled aggression is a strength to you. What do you think, because you're talking to people now online more than ever. So you're talking to a lot of traders.
yeah,
What
absolutely.
what do you think people are doing, or what characteristics do you see within people that are holding them back from being more successful in trading? Can you be specific? Is it something on the chart, off the chart? Like what comes to mind?
It's always off the chart. I mean,
You think so?
the charts,
Always off the chart,
yeah.
always.
The chart, I mean, I'd say 9 times out of 10 because I have guys that come to me and I look at some of the stuff they show me and I'm like, damn, dude, you could be so much of a better trader than me, but you can't get out of your own fucking head.
Really?
Like, yeah, I honestly mean it. Like, just based on some of the charts that these people show me, and like just the attention to detail and how studious. I have a client from he's been in Asia now. He's over in Mexico. He's just kind of just globetrotting a little bit. He'll show me like his daily analysis, his daily notes during the market. I'm like, you are so detailed. He's like the most like perfect student, and I'm like, trading isn't university. It's not. You have to execute. You cannot be so like expecting like a perfect outcome. You have to be okay. The best way to put it, I think most people care too much about perfectionism. I think it's a scam. I think you need to be okay with imperfect action. You need to have a good system. And if you apply it imperfectly over time, you get enough reps in to understand that there is either validity with what you're doing or there's room for improvement. So like that's a big one. Just do the thing. Like I have guys that say, "Oh, I'm afraid to take a trade." Take 20 losses in a row. I'm sure you'll be fine. Like you'll realize like it's not that big of a deal. When you understand probability, you realize, okay, I can't be losing that many times in a row. Otherwise, it's clear I don't have a system.
For sure.
And if it's like, okay, I lose maybe 3 out of 10 trades or 4 out of 10 trades, I could survive. I can make it work. And
For
like
sure.
that's a big one for people.
We'll now tie it into the prop firm stuff because now the prop firms kind of feed people to like, you know, I don't want to say YOLO money around, but you know what I'm saying. A little bit.
Yeah.
The prop firms kind of feed that a little bit. So, what's your start high level? What's your opinion on the prop stuff? Because some
I
of the
think,
ICT guys
yeah.
kind of hate it. I think some ICT guys are like personal capital or die kind of thing. Where do you stand?
Yeah. I mean, I started with options, so I lost a lot of my own money at the beginning, like a
Right,
fuck ton, like
like the
more
rest
than
of
you
us.
should ever lose. Yeah.
Right,
It's like,
right.
I talked to some people. I'm like, do not do what I did. I promise you. I did it for you. You don't have to do it. And
Yep.
then they'll still try to do it the hard way. And I'm like, bro, it's just the best thing you can do. Prop firms, yes, absolutely. One of the friend that I had that really got me into trading, besides Tanner, he told me how he started, and he's like, don't ever do that. Like, just same thing with like hear Umar how he started. He's like, oh yeah, I would leverage credit cards and get my capital and do it that way. My friend was like, it's a blessing that there's prop firms now because I wouldn't have had to do what I did, you
Yep.
know.
Yep.
So it's like you hear stuff like that. It's a very useful tool, but it comes down to like a couple, I guess like overall overarching habits. Most people lose because they can't take a loss, and most people have consistently big red days because they can't take less than two trades. Like you never take two winning trades on a day, so why do you need to take seven losing trades? Like if people did those couple things where number one, don't rinse and reset over and over and over. I've heard people say, "Hey, did you know that there's a top step email they send you if you blow too many accounts in a day?" I'm like, "No, I had no idea." They're like, "Yeah, it exists." They're like, they basically like cut you off. So the fact that that exists is why people can't be successful. Because like you say all the time, it's money in versus money out. How many times am I buying these accounts? How many times am I getting paid out? That's the real equation here. And people
Yep.
just they think that somehow today's trade matters so much more than like just the longevity of their career, and it blows my mind.
Not only that, the lack of longevity, they will buy the accounts and go into it with I think a thought of like being serious. But
Mhm.
then how many people are actually tracking how much money they've spent versus how much they've pulled out? Like
Right?
even in just a simple spreadsheet, like
Yeah.
very few people are taking it even seriously enough to do that correctly. So what do we expect, right? To your point, what do you expect? You're going
Yeah.
to get smoked, you know what I mean, by everybody else who takes it super seriously. So now, okay, good start to the prop firm stuff. What do you think of the instant funded accounts versus the challenge accounts now? Because the instant funded thing, I know you know
Right.
about it with Tradify, is super popular.
Yeah, yeah. No, I remember seeing it initially, and I was like, I had to think about it. I was like, I don't know if I like this. But the more I sat and thought about it, I realized that like the market operates obviously in cycles. I think that was one of the first things I realized, that markets go up and down, and whether or not your edge plays out week by week by week, it really depends. And one thing I noticed that traders struggle with the evaluation phase is I can think of 4 or 5 guys that I work with that they're like, oh, I just killed on my eval, perfect week, 6 days, whatever. They just do amazing. And then the next week when they activate the account, the market shifts, and maybe it's like NFP week, and then they blow it. And then they go through that pattern of just like on, off, on, off, on, off. I'm like, dude, it's like one of those things where you hit every red light, when you're driving. And then there's some days where you make every green light.
Every green light, right?
That's what's happening to these guys. They're passing on easy weeks, and then they're failing their actual funded accounts on like challenging weeks. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, that opportunity cost. Yes, I agree with the idea that people should demonstrate some sort of consistency. Like it's a good learning tool, the eval phase. However, the reality of it, markets are not the same every single day. So it's an opportunity cost, at the end of the day. And I get it, it's a business, whatever. But at the end, if you paid a higher ticket just to get into an instant funded account, and you personally had some sort of understanding that you're profitable, absolutely you should do it, because it cuts down on just the requirement for
Right.
like margin.
Yeah.
With a personal account, if you want to trade, let's just say you go to AMP futures, you want to trade 5 or 6 micro NQ, you need like $7,000 or something like that. I think it's
Do you
like,
really? I didn't know that. So you need 7 grand for 5 micros?
I think the margin requirement on a micro NQ is like 1,100. I'm pretty sure that's what
Really?
it is for Tradeway. I'm pretty sure AMP's about the same. And
Wow.
then
I feel like that's not that great. Even more of a pro for the prop firms where you can go
absolutely, yeah, yeah.
like
And those are
500.
discount brokers. Like, go over to like, Thinkorswim or Schwab or whatever you call it now.
Yeah.
It's substantially more. You go over
Well, you know what's
to
crazy is like
TradeStation.
you're paying for this 150K account, right? And
Yeah.
it's like $500 after a discount.
Yeah. Yeah.
6K of drawdown, 3,700 give or take, whatever company is intraday drawdown.
Mm,
That's a crazy opportunity. I know you said this already, but I'm just
yeah.
saying it again. It is crazy compared to like where you and I. Can you say how much you lost in your first year or two? I've said
Yeah,
before, I
easily
lost
into the
like
5
50 grand.
figures. It was whatever. I tell people they'll lose whatever
More or less than
substantially to
50.
them. Say it again?
More or less than 50.
No, less than 50. It was probably close to 20 though.
All right. So
Still
I
close
still
to 20.
beat you.
Yeah,
I
for
still got
sure.
I still got the kick. And the 45 took me a while to dig back, bro. So,
That's
but you
tough,
know
man.
what? I have had people, not that we need to sidebar tangent on this off prop
Yeah.
firms, but I've had people come into the mentorship to like, I put 20 in a live account. I'm down to the last 8 or 10. Now
Oof.
can you help me? So
Yeah.
that's where I think the prop firms really step in is you avoid that chunk of money, whether it's 20 for you, 40 for
Yep.
me,
Yep.
you avoid losing that money, which is a win for the new trader. That's where I
Yeah.
hate seeing all the prop firm drama. I laugh at it, but I hate seeing it because it makes all the firms look bad. We need to
Yeah.
not have all that stuff as much. We need to like have unity and make the industry stronger because it does offer a great opportunity for traders. But
It's a substantial risk reward like for
substantial.
traders, and it's just weird because like I don't understand how anyone could run a business like that
I know.
improperly when there's so much money being made every single day for these companies. What you're like, how are your priorities that off? You can't have someone answer the phone if there's an issue with an account. You
Isn't
would
that
think
crazy?
that stuff like customer service would be important with these companies, and that's maybe my main gripe. Like
Yeah,
some
some of them suck
companies are
at
just
customer
like it's
support.
just a
Yeah.
headache, you
Well,
know.
some of them don't care. They got into. I mean, look how many have rug pulled. There's been a shit ton that
Yeah.
have gone out of business. They tried to get customer support, dude. I'm going. This is maybe a little TMI, but it's fine. I'm going into a situation over the next few months where, like,
Mm,
I know multiple people who are starting firms. One of them is starting fresh, one of them is not. We're going to
gotcha.
see who's got an infrastructure in place to handle that kind of customer support, to handle the payouts correctly, because that's what people get judged on, right?
Yep.
But if
Yep.
you have the infrastructure to answer support in 30 seconds and stuff like that, I think that can be the game changer. That's because like you know, just like me, people want that personal touch. Traders want to feel they feel they're important. We all trade because we think we know the answer to the market. We
Yeah.
all have that ego, right? We want it. So we want I'll pay a little bit more money for better customer
Yeah,
support.
literally,
Yeah,
literally. It's like
100%.
whenever I have an issue, I'm like, "Hey, there's something wrong with like my account. Like there's an issue with it.
Yeah,
Can I like I want to just call you on the phone because they think, "Oh, we're being efficient." I'm like, "No, actually, you just wasted 2 hours of my day
right.
trying to get a hold of you.
Yep.
I've had to send 6, I had to call 6 times. I
Yep.
kid you not. I had like a payout that just didn't go through or something with one of these, the one of the bigger futures companies, and I'm just
Yep.
like, I'm called 6 times in one day. And then they finally answered. And then it took like 4 or 5 days. They're like, oh, yeah, we had no record of it. And then they processed it on their end. I'm just like, can you not send me to an AI chatbot? Like, I will literally break my computer if I have to do that again.
I will literally stab myself in the neck with this pen at the desk,
Happily,
bro.
happily.
And it's like you could just hire $2 an hour customer support people in India, and you don't have to do AI chatbots. You're making enough money, right?
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like anything. Just let me talk to a person because I understand you don't want people like crying on the phone, like, oh no, I blew my account. I'm like, but if people have like like legitimate concern, like, can I get a subscription? I'll pay you $30 a month to have no issue. Just let me call you. Like, because I just don't want to waste my time on that stuff. And
I think some prop firm owners get that. Some
yeah,
prop firm owners don't, and that's just the way it'll be.
unfortunate.
That's business, right? Like some dude, there's a dispensary near my house. There's only
Mm,
one within like 30 minutes. Everyone goes to this one. The wait sucks. I'm standing there one day. The lady's rude to me. Blah blah blah. I go to write a bad review because I'm like, what else are you supposed to do, right?
right.
Everyone already wrote reviews about the same thing that I'm already complaining about, and they don't care. They don't fix it. And then they reply to every review with the same thing. The company replies, "Hey, thanks for your thing, letting us know." But I want to reply back. You don't care. I'm like the 80th person to let you know that these people suck. You know.
Yeah.
So some businesses just don't care. That's the truth, and that's why.
Yeah.
And we'll still buy their shit. That's
It's
unfortunate truth.
unfortunate, but I
But
can tell you and I are the same in that sense. Like
so
low threshold for that type of nonsense. But
bro, I mean, if I'm standing there for 6 minutes and we make eye contact, 10 minutes, we make eye contact, we're still, and you don't say, hey, I'll be right with you, something's wrong. I'm saying something to somebody. I don't care where we are, dispensary, restaurant. If you
yep,
don't like,
yep.
that's customer service 101, bro. It just grinds my gears. I hate that. You know what I'm saying? I hate that.
Some people just have nothing better to do. Like
No.
they have no like sort of like pep in their step, and they just kind of like
And they don't care. It's not
drag
their
their life.
business. They just
Yeah,
clock in and clock out. That's really
yeah.
what it
I
is.
couldn't be me. But
What were you doing before trading
yeah,
other than
before
powerlifting?
trading, so my path has been pretty. It's been pretty unique in the sense that like I've kind of created what I wanted to do. So in high school, they were like do a senior report, right? You had to pick a career. Everyone's like, oh, let me just do some whatever nonsense. I'm like, I'm gonna be an online coach, and I'm gonna design a powerlifting program, and I'm gonna coach people. And they're like, what? And I had to really like sell the idea of what I was gonna do because like I don't know if you know like Slingshot, right? That company, they
No.
make like lifting gear. This is
Okay.
like 2015, like there's barely any powerlifters. There's like, you go to a powerlifting or a regular gym, there's barely anyone wearing knee sleeves. Like it's back when there's like nothing. And
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And that's what I started. And I started coaching a couple people, used basic linear periodization, kind of, went through the whole science of it. And I was just obsessed with all that stuff, biomechanics. And yeah, that's pretty much what I got into. So I was going to go to school for engineering, ended up going to school for business, ended up choosing my safety school actually, because I was like, yeah,
Where'd
I
you
didn't
go?
get into UCLA. I went to Cal State Fullerton. I got into a couple UCs, but I
Yeah.
didn't get into UCLA. So I was like, I'm done. I don't care anymore. I
Yeah.
graduated like 10th in my class, like tied 10th in my class with a 4.2 GPA. So
Look
I
at
did
you, bro.
okay. I did okay, but I just not okay enough to get
Okay.
into UCLA.
Okay. Shut
Yeah,
the
I could have done a little better,
You're talking to
probably.
Mr. 2.9, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all good. It's all good. School didn't do any good, anyways. But with that being said, I really got into the coaching side of things, and I started my own online coaching business, called it Blueprint. Eventually, went on to partner with a couple people to open a gym.
Nice.
So I ended up owning a gym in Orange County for a couple of years.
CrossFit or just regular lifting
Yeah,
gym?
so it was partially CrossFit. We bought
Oh,
out
nice.
an existing CrossFit gym,
Nice.
and we saw that the business just wasn't doing great. So it was like a distressed asset. We try to nurse it back. We were able to incorporate powerlifting, incorporate the use of social media, bring people in. It was a really cool spot. Like the people who went there really enjoyed it for a while. But towards the end of COVID, I pretty much ended up selling to my other business partner, and kind of that was about it. At the peak, we had like 150 members, and yeah, we did a bunch of different stuff. Did apparel, did
Why did you
meets.
sell it?
It just, me and my partner just weren't really seeing like eye to eye in that sense. It was
It's
just different
always that, dude.
decisions.
It's always that.
Like a
Me and
marriage,
my
you have to choose
me
the right person,
me
honestly.
and my brother are gonna try to do a business together, maybe on the side here, something down in
Yeah,
Florida. Yeah, I don't wanna say on the podcast, I'll tell you later, but, like,
gotcha.
I don't know how it's gonna go working with my brother.
I can definitely get that. I know family businesses can be tough for sure. It's like,
Ugh,
and also, like, I just got to kind of add in there. I was really young when I was doing all that stuff. Like, this was my first life experience with a lot of that, like leadership. Like, I know how to do any of that shit. I know how to
right,
talk to
dude.
people.
Right.
It's like nowadays, like I've done enough of it where I could be very direct with people. I don't have an
Sure.
issue with that. But
Yeah.
back then, it's like I don't even know if I could, like,
That's maybe
like,
good. That
hey,
was the
don't do
experience you
that.
needed.
Don't put the things there.
No, of course, but now look, it taught you to be tough, so it was good
Yeah, yeah,
experience. That's what
absolutely.
you needed. Yeah.
You ultimately learn through experience, and that's like the thing where people try to say, "Oh, I spent 4 hours back testing." To me, it's the same thing with like people who go to like business school and they never start a business. You know how hard it is to start a damn business? Go buy a brick and mortar. Good luck. Go do it. You
Good
can't
luck.
even do half of that stuff anymore.
No,
It's
because
so out of
your
reach.
margins are gone. Right. Yep.
So that's how
Yeah.
you learn.
Dude,
It's
you're
real
very
experience.
entrepreneurial. That's what people should hear. Like now it's getting back to this 40
Yeah,
minutes into the conversation, but it is good. It's like I've always said, I think entrepreneur type mindset people do well as traders because this is a business. You have to look at it
it
like a
really is.
business.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think that you should hide from that fact, everybody. That's why I think it's good to highlight the background here. So that's really good to see, really good to know. Now let's go back to trading before we get too
yeah.
off topic, Christian. What when you think back to when you first started, and I know you said at the beginning the trading has changed a lot, like the way
Mhm.
what would you say to 2020 Christian now if you could say I got advice for you, bro, and it'll make you more money faster if you do this. What would it be?
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing, if I could have learned early on just to take losses at face value instead of trying to, like, it's what a lot of people do. They try to make something better than it is. If you just take the loss and accept it for what it is, instead of trying to do all this other, like, take another trade and just, you're going to do more damage. You're going to make it so much more complex. You're going to make your stats so diluted. Just take the loss and accept it. Don't try to fix it. If you take a loss, adjust, right? You don't need to try, like, people take a trade and they try to flip. And for me, when I first started, it was just a lot of like, I spent a lot of time, number one, chasing losses, which I was just digging a deeper grave. And number two, it was like I spent maybe a lot of time learning stuff that wasn't actually what I needed to learn. I think everyone gets into the market and they're like, like they see all like the Big Short, like, Michael Burry, all this shit. It's like, but how is that trading? That's market information. It's not
True.
technical analysis, So
True.
I have there's a big line in the sand there. It's like you shouldn't learn really, if you're trying to be a technical trader, do not learn any sort of fundamental analysis early on. You need to be aware of it, but like it's going to skew your bias. Inflation good, inflation bad. Does it matter? The market goes up or down on them. It really doesn't matter which way to you. Of course, if if you have an interest in that stuff, yeah, look at it, but it shouldn't color your trading. And I think for me, it's like you see all this crazy mania during COVID, and you're like, oh no, this is overpriced. And it's like, then buy it and ride it until it stops going up. This is a bubble. Great. Enjoy it while it lasts. Don't try to counter the trend. It's never going to work for you. You're not that guy. Like that's the best advice. Follow what is going on and don't try to flip it. People try to invert things because they think they're smarter than the market. It's like, no, it's going up. Just accept the fact that it's going up or down, right? Like in this scenario, it's been going down. You have to just accept it for what it is. So
So
it's, yeah.
you made many good points there. Did you distract yourself with fundamental analysis?
I feel like I
That,
did. Yeah. I mean,
I was going to say, is that why you brought that up?
yeah, genuinely, like when I say like what would I tell myself, these are the things I'd absolutely tell myself. I spent a lot of time, like I definitely learned technical things, but I could have been spending more time learning more refined technical things. It's like it's not enough to just learn candlestick patterns. Go find someone early on that's actually deploying these systems. It took me a long time to join a group. It took me like at least a year to like be like, okay, let me learn from these people, because I had such a big fucking ego. Like, of course I'm going to figure this out on my own. Of course I got this.
Everybody can relate to that too.
And then I'm like, going through like crippling depression of just getting rocked every day in the market. I'm just like, oh my God. Like, I'm like, I heard a Jadon, right?
Yeah.
Jadon Trades.
Yeah.
I heard one quote. He said, he's like, I had to get to that point where I asked myself, like, I'm either going to figure this out or I'm going to die. And he immediately was like, I know that sounds crazy. Some people, I'm like, no, I understand what you mean. Cause I remember being just beat up, like just down, like, I don't know, a couple grand or something on the day. I'm just looking in the mirror, just like, I need to figure this out or I'm going to die. Like, and I have that same like kind of like mentality where it's like, I can't quit because I've went too far into this. So I had to adjust. And really it was get a more technical understanding of the market. Stop trying to think that you're going to understand these things. Like, I mean, really think about what was the big short. Like, bro, this guy was down so bad and it ended up working. Is that trading to you? You don't have enough money for that. Like, it's just not going to work that way. So there's a lot of things that people do distract themselves with.
Definitely. How many hours a day are you trading?
Very little now. I mean, to be honest, most of the time, like let's just say 2024, it was probably 45 minutes a day. Like just the open, honestly,
Nice.
like maybe an hour and a half at most. Nowadays, this year, I've seen a lot more utility in trading Asia. I don't know why this year, but like there's been pretty decent structure. So I'll look at it.
NQ?
Yeah, NQ. Yeah. So I started ES. Obviously, it was in options first. Then I transitioned to S&P options, and then I got into ES. Now I primarily trade NQ. However, I do look at the three. I look at YM, ES, and NQ. So I have three of them up here, and I got like the four charts in front of me as well. I got a decent amount of screen right here. But
No
yeah,
Bitcoin,
today I traded
no
YM.
gold, no nothing like that.
No, I don't understand the tendencies of like crude or anything like that.
Do the ICT concepts still work on those assets?
I think so. I honestly think this market, that perspective on market structure works across assets pretty well.
That's
It
crazy.
did work really well in crypto for quite a while. So like
That's
into the pretty much into the end of the year, like that November time, it was working pretty well. Lately though, in crypto, it's just been everything's just gotten rinsed. So it's like it's really hard to say.
Yeah, well, I think that's the bad part about crypto. Like we talked about identifying market cycles. When
Yeah.
we're in a bear cycle, there's no buying crypto and making money. That's not how it works.
Yeah. I've from all of the people I know, and specifically just a good friend of mine who's done, let's just say, very well in crypto.
Yeah.
The best piece of advice he's ever said is just daily buy.
That's his best advice.
Literally just daily buy. And like, if I showed you some of the numbers he's shown me, you'd be like, oh, that's what you do.
Right. Because
Like,
then when you're down 80%, just like we do with stocks. That's what I do with all my stocks.
But he's like, he said he doesn't really care about the price of things. It's really just accumulating as many coins as possible. So if you're buying like 500 bucks, $100 a day, bing, 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 your average fixes itself. It's not complicated, but the reason you do it daily instead of like dollar cost averaging on like big structures is crypto can be very volatile. You could buy 10% higher and tomorrow it's down 10%, So Absolutely. It's like it averages out better on a daily basis that way.
I wonder if that's the right mindset too. Like that's kind of how I was talking to my wife about like the assets that we have and stuff, the stocks that I'm not planning on selling. Those are like, I don't care the price. I just want to get more shares. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think so. I really think it's beneficial, especially when you can buy like fractional shares and stuff. So you can buy like $100 a day if you have like Robinhood Gold or whatever. It's just you can set it automatically to do those things. That's what I personally do using like Coinbase. I have like the Pro or whatever. I'll just buy like $20, $50 a day on different coins. I don't even think about it. I
Yep.
don't even look. I just get the little email notification, swipe it, and that's
Yep.
it.
Yep.
So I think it makes sense for a long-term point of view on that stuff to do it because you just get a cleaner average.
Exactly. So now what are you doing day to day? You said you're streaming now this year. Where is that? Is that all in Discord?
Yeah, I do everything in Discord. I've been throwing a lot of the live sessions up on YouTube.
Nice.
I'm trying to do as many as I can this month. Try to turn some of it into some short form or like more, uniform clips and stuff like that. I work with clients a little bit here and there. Do a couple calls a day. Really, I'm in the Discord, but other than that, I mean, I just enjoy my life. Go out, hang out in the backyard, play with the dogs, hit the gym. More often in the past than lately. I'd say I've been a little too busy with Asia. The only problem with Asia is it takes forever. So like that's the difference. Like last year, 45 minutes are in the open. This year, Asia, the trades just take longer sometimes. It might be an hour, 2 hours.
So you got to
But
sit at the desk at
yeah,
night.
keep my day simple.
Yeah, I mean, you are in the time zone out of, you or me to trade Asia. For me,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
evening
It's
time.
really
It's
easy.
tougher. Yeah, it's easier for you for sure. No, Christian, this has been great, bro. A lot of good information. I feel like hopefully from this, people definitely go down into the description of this video, check out the Discord, get in there with you guys. I think you gave a lot of good context on ICT stuff, a couple of good metaphors in there too, which everybody loves. A lot of good commentary on the prop firm stuff. So I think for part one, this is good, buddy. This is real
Yeah,
good.
awesome. Yeah, thanks. Thank you for having me.
Dude, of course, absolutely. Listeners, make sure you hit the comments on YouTube. Let us know if there's any questions for Christian when we do part two. We'll make sure we pull from those to try to make sure everybody's super satisfied. But Christian, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thanks, everybody.
Listeners,
Thank you.
absolutely. Listeners, thank you guys for listening. Of course, make sure you guys are subscribed, and we'll see you in the next episode.